All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we are now going to talk about the rest of the NBA playoff action from over the weekend. We will start off with the playing games from Friday. Didn't get a chance to talk about them, of course, because that was going into the weekend. Um, but the Heat knocked off the Hawks in overtime in a wild game, 123 to 114. Tyler Hero had another good game. He finished with 30 points. Bam Adebayo, a double-double in the game, 11 rebounds, 17 points. Andrew Wiggins had 20 points. Trae Young finished with 29 points. Um, but yeah, it wasn't looking good for the Heat, but they were able to, come away with the victory. And, they had control of that game. But then the Hawks, they outscored them 29-20 in the fourth quarter. They did take the lead late at one point, but the Heat were able to come back and push it to overtime and get the win. And then in the second game, the Grizzlies had control the whole time against the Mavericks, 120 to 106. They ended up winning. They had a really big lead at one point, but it was too much for the Mavericks to overcome. Anthony Davis did finish with 40 points, but yeah, the Mavericks, their season ended up coming to an end, which I wasn't surprised by. I mean, I still took them, but in the game, but yeah, it's the Grizzlies were the better team. All five of their starters finished in the double digits. Zach Edey had a double double. John Morant finished with 22 points. Not a great shooting night, um, but yeah, their season came to an end, and they just kept showing Nico Harrison. That was just the topic of conversation throughout that entire game. And now we go into a very unique offseason. It doesn't seem like Nico Harrison's job is at stake, which you kind of figured, but Mavericks got to stay healthy next year. I think with Kyrie Irving coming back, I think they said he's going to come back by January of next year. So, I mean, you get him back. I mean, this is still a good team. It's just that trade never should have been made. And they said defense wins championships. Well, he said defense wins championships. That was the philosophy of why the trade was done. But I just don't agree with the decision. But ownership signed off on that, so that it is what it is. But we go into now the game one matchups, the other game one matchups we didn't get a chance to talk about. Saturday's games, the Pacers and the Bucks. The Pacers won 117-98. They had full control of that game. They outscored the Bucks 34-18 in the second quarter. Giannis did finish with 36 points, but this is not the same Bucks team that we've seen in the past. They traded for Kyle Kuzma. They traded, Chris Middleton for him, and he was not good. He went 0 for 5 from the field, 0 for 2 from the free throw line. He finished with 0 points. 0 points, 0 rebounds, 0 assists. Brook Lopez only had 4 rebounds. He had 9 points on the day. You had Tyron Prince. He finished with 0 points. Ryan Rollins. He finished with 5 points. You did get contributions from AJ Green off the bench and Gary Trent and Kevin Porter, but I just think the Pacers are a better team. I think if the Bucks are able to get Damian Lillard back in some capacity for this series, I think they, that betters their chances, obviously. But I saw this Pacers team, up close. Well, not up close, but when they played against the Knicks, and they're a good team. Tyrese Halliburton, looking at his day, he was not great. He went 3 of 13 from the field, 0 of 7 from 3. He finished with 10 points, but they still won the game. Miles Turner had a good game, Pascal Siakam, Andrew Nembhard, TJ McConnell off the bench. I called him, a pest, because that's what he was against the Knicks last year. But this is a good team. And, I definitely see the Pacers taking this. I picked them to win this series. And, the Bucks need more than just Giannis. Guys in their starting lineup are going to have to step up. Kuzma's going to have to step up. They went out and traded for this guy, and he finished with nothing in the stat sheet. So this is a big game, too, coming up for the Bucks. Obviously you'll get 2 games in Milwaukee. Pacers got home field advantage. And Tyrese Halliburton was talking some trash with Damian Lillard. So it's not looking good right now for the Bucks. But yeah, so the Pacers got the win there. This was probably the best game of the weekend, and that's the Nuggets and the Clippers. This series is dead even. We are going to see games. I don't know exactly like this, but we are going to see more closely competitive games, coming up in this series. The Nuggets, they escaped with a win, 112 to 110. The stars showed out in this game. James Harden, he finished with 32 points. Zubac finished with 21. Kawhi Leonard had 22. For the Nuggets, Jokic finished with 29 points. Jamal Murray finished with 21. Aaron Gordon finished with 25. Russell Westbrook had 15 off the bench, and he almost costed the Nuggets again at the end. But he had some clutch shots down the stretch there. But that's what Russ brings to the table. He has that. I think he said it. He has that effort mentality. But that also, could cost the Nuggets the series here. So he's, got to be careful there. But hey, they were able to get the win. That was huge. But yeah, this series is going to be, back and forth. These are 2 very good teams. The Nuggets, with the questionable decision of letting go of their head coach so late in the season. But look, you still got the best player in the league. You got these players that have playoff experience. So, you still got to give them that respect. And then as for the Clippers, they are a very good team. And yeah, that was a tough pill to swallow for them, because they did have the lead in this game, but yeah, no, the Nuggets, they were able to make a late run, came back, pushed it to overtime, and they were able to get the win in overtime. So they're up 1 game in the series, and then we go to the games yesterday. Now, the one I really did watch, and this game was under 100 points. Both teams finished under 100 points. That was the Warriors-Rockets game. We'll get into that, but let's get into the other games first. So the Thunder, wow. I did tune in briefly for the game yesterday, but they steamrolled the Grizzlies yesterday. They won 131 to 80. Between the second and third quarter, all right, they put up 80 points. They outscored the Grizzlies 80 to 43. And then in the first quarter, they outscored the Grizzlies 32 to 20. In the fourth quarter, there wasn't a lot of scoring. They outscored the Grizzlies 19 to 17. But they were in full control of that game. All their starters finished in the double digits. Aaron Wiggins, he finished with 21 points off the bench. But yeah, Lou Dort finished with 12. Jalen Williams finished with 20. Hartenstein finished with 14. Chet Holmgren finished with 19 points and 10 rebounds. And Shea didn't have a big game. He only had 15 points, 4 of 13 from the field. So, despite that, they still won by 51 points. So, you expect him to have better games as we move along in this series. This series is over. Like this one, I can definitively say this series is over. Maybe the Grizzlies steal a game, but yeah, no, the Thunder are winning the series with ease. John Moran was not great, 17 points, 6 of 17 from the field. No one really shot the basketball well in this game. They finished. They went 32 of 93 from the field. The Grizzlies in this game, they shot 34%. The Thunder shot 50%. The Grizzlies shot 17% from the 3-point line. Thunder were 35% from the 3-point line. They were out rebounded. Turnovers. Thunder got 24 points off of turnovers to the Grizzlies 10. Fast break points 27-5. The Thunder just had their way, and my friend had a little bit of a wager on this game, and he took the Grizzlies alternate spread. I think it was like plus 15, plus 16 and a half. And he was like, if you can't cover 16 and a half, like, what are we doing? Well, no, they didn't. Not even if he did like, double that. If he did 32 and a half, they wouldn't have covered that. Very lopsided. I have not talked to him since that happened. But yeah, that was not good. But listen, the Thunder, they're the number 1 seed for a reason. And the Grizzlies, they're a team that let their head coach go late. And it's just, it's not a good day for them. Now again, it's one game, but to me, that series is a wrap. Did watch a little bit of the Magic Celtics game from yesterday. The Magic did have the lead at one point. They did well in the first half. I think they were winning. They were winning at halftime. What were they up? They were up 1, I think. Let's see. Yeah, they went on a run towards the end of the first half. And yeah, they were up 1 going into halftime. So you had to feel good as a Magic fan. But then the Celtics, they woke up in the second half. They outscored them 30-18 in the third quarter, 25-19 in the fourth quarter. Paolo Banchero had a very good game. He finished with 36 points, 11 rebounds. Franz Wagner finished with 23 points. Didn't really get any contributions off the bench for the Magic. Derek White was actually the leading scorer for the Celtics. You would not think that. But yeah, he finished with 30 points, 7 of 12 from 3, 10 of 18 from the field. Jason Tatum, 17 points, finished with 14 and had 14 rebounds. Jaylen Brown had 16 points. Yeah, but they still were able to get the win. So, like we talked about with Shea, you expect Tatum and Jaylen Brown to have better games than this, and despite them, not lighting it up yesterday, they still won. But that's how good the Celtics are. There's a gap between them and the Magic, and the Magic are a good team, but they're not in the Celtics category. They're just not. So the Celtics picked up a Game 1 win. The Heat and the Cavaliers. Cavs got the 121-100 win. The Heat just don't have enough to compete with the Cavs. So that series I expect to wrap up pretty quickly. Donovan Mitchell finished with 30 points. Darius Garland had 27. So, yeah, I expect that to be a 4-game sweep, honestly. And then the game I watched last night, the Warriors and the Rockets. Warriors continue their dominance over the Rockets in the playoffs. Rockets came out firing, but, the Warriors in the second quarter, they outscored them 29-13. And we saw some crazy shots from Steph Curry last night. There was that one point in the third quarter, that 3-point shot, contested 3. He's like fading away, and he throws it up, and it goes in. He's still doing it at 37. And he looks like he's, 27 out there. But you had him finish with 31 points. You had Jimmy Butler finishing with 25 points. And yeah, this game, both teams finished under 100 points. And I think Ernie Johnson said on the post game for TNT, said that's only happened 30 times out of the 1,200 games that were played this season. That's amazing. But yeah, the Warriors, they picked up the win. Şengün, he had 26 points. He was their leading scorer for the Rockets last night. Fred VanVleet, not a great shooting night. He went 4 of 19 from the field, 2 of 13 from 3. He finished with 10 points. But yeah, the Warriors, like I said, continue their dominance against the Rockets. Um, and now home field shifts in their favor. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think, though, about the game one games. What were your takeaways from them? Let me know in the comments. So we are going to take our next break, and then when we come back, we'll talk football. We're going to talk about Brock Purdy and his potential contract extension, and if he does indeed get that extension, does that officially close the 49ers Super Bowl window? So we'll get into that when we come back from our next break. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast.